Hey, this is Ryan from Web Eminence. If you're investigating WordPress to build your site, you probably already know that you need to install a theme that determines the design of your site. But behind the actual look of the design theme, there's often a framework that is used in the development of a theme, and it ultimately determines how the website functions, and it enables all the features that are available to you when you build your site in WordPress. So knowing the framework that your theme runs on before you buy a theme is more important than you realize and could save you hours of time in developing your website. So in this video, I'm going to cover a few WordPress frameworks and builders. So frameworks like Bootstrap, Genesis, Cherry, Codestar, and then builders like Divi and Visual Composer. So the goal is really to help you understand what these frameworks and builders actually do and how they affect the way you're going to build a site in WordPress. So it's important to know what a theme framework is. So by way of definition, I'm on the WordPress.org documents, and it talks about theme framework. So what is a theme framework? Frameworks are for theme developers. They often set a standard for theme developers to use to create their own themes, and there are a set of functions, features created to aid development. So a lot of people who are building a WordPress site themselves don't care too much about frameworks. They're not talked about too much because they really are for developers to create their own themes. But for people doing DIY work, building your site yourself in WordPress, you really need to know the basics of what frameworks are and which one you want to use, maybe some that you don't want to use, because they're going to affect how easily you're able to build your website and what the final product's going to be. So this video is really not for developers. I'd love for developers to watch it, maybe comment below just to add to the discussion, maybe correct me when I'm wrong. But this video is really for people who are building their first website in WordPress, or maybe plan on building their second, or just building a few websites with WordPress. So on this page, you can see they mention a few of the popular frameworks like Codestar. Let's see what else. Cherry is another one I'll cover, and then Genesis framework. And then I'm going to mention a few other website builders that are popular and they're important for the framework discussion. So a lot of people browse the WordPress theme directory to find free themes and paid themes. A lot of the themes in this directory probably are only utilizing the core WordPress framework. So pages, posts, widgets, and menus. So you'll find a lot of good themes on here, but a lot of people search for premium themes. Good place to do that is on envato.com, Theme Forest. So if I was to go here and click on WordPress, and if you were to browse through some of these themes, you'll find different frameworks being used. A lot of the themes on here will be using Bootstrap, which is a library that's used in all types of different platforms, but it's used as a WordPress framework as well. So before you purchase a theme, you can figure out which framework it uses. This is a theme I purchased recently, I've been using to build a site, and you see as you scroll down on the right here on Theme Forest, they tell you some information about the software. It's using Visual Composer, which is a builder, like I mentioned. That's a plugin, not a framework, but it also mentions Bootstrap Framework here. So now I'm logged into WordPress dashboard for the site where this theme is installed already. And if you're familiar with the WordPress dashboard, you can tell already that it's been extended. So a framework really extends the functionality of the core WordPress platform. So a lot of the places you'll see a theme and a framework in action are right here in this left-hand menu. You can access everything from here. So there's these different elements that are built into this theme, which I'll go through in a second. Under Appearance, you'll see Customize and Widgets. So the framework and theme will kind of customize these elements. Some of them use widgets more than others, and then some of them allow you to use the customizer to do live changes on the look of your site. And then most themes and frameworks have a settings panel. So if I click on this one, you'll see these general settings like header and footer settings, phone and address. Under Appearance, there's probably a number of general look settings like background color and image, header, footer, sidebar, and then there's custom CSS that's available. So on this site, if I were to go into Pages, which is where most people will go to begin building their site, and click Add New, I'm going to go to the page editor in WordPress, and it does have Visual Composer installed. And then down here you'll see some other settings for each page that are dependent on the theme and the framework being used. So these will be custom built in Bootstrap, so this will look different depending on which theme you're using, because Bootstrap just allows you, some of them might be similar, but Bootstrap would allow a developer to customize all these settings. And then there's page templates that'll be used to change the overall layout and look of a page to create some of the different pages that you'll see on the theme demo. But if you create a new page here, it's just blank. I could load the Visual Composer here, which is a drag and drop editor for WordPress pages. I could click Backend Editor. It'll allow me to start adding elements to the page and build it from scratch. But when you purchase a theme, you probably are purchasing it because you want a site that looks like that theme. So if I go into the theme demo, you would see, all these elements, pictures and icons and different design elements that you want on your site. So typically the easiest way to duplicate the look of the theme demo for a theme that you purchase is by loading demo content. So a lot of times the way you'll do that by uploading a data file that's provided by the theme developer. So you'll want to check the theme settings and documentation. But if I go to get started with this theme, it actually says learn how to import demo data. And then I read through this, and there's an XML file I had to download and upload to the site using WordPress importer. So can't cover all that here, but check the theme documentation for the theme you purchased. And once it's uploaded, I can go into pages, and it will have added all of these pages as kind of a template for me to work off of. So if you look at the home page that was created, it's actually just like the theme demo, and it's the page I was just looking at. So all these elements are now on the page. So if I was to just go in and edit this page, let's see what that looks like. I'm going to go to home and edit the current front page. And on this home page, they're using Visual Composer to create the home page, but they're also using some of these elements on the left, like pricing plan, slide, team members. So these elements are built using Bootstrap by the developer, and then they're used as content on the site, and they're given design, and it's already pre-designed, so you just need to add the content, and it will look like the theme demo. So if I scroll through here, you see there's a slider. If I click on edit, and I can't go into all the Visual Composer functions here, but you can see there's some slide IDs that are displayed on this slide, and then the slides are controlled over here on the left under slides. There are some core Visual Composer elements like text and image blocks. Here's features just with an icon and an image. So you can click on these text blocks and edit the text. And here's testimonials, which if I click on that, there's no options there, and that's because it's pretty much all pulled from the testimonials over here on the left. Same thing is true of team members. If I click on that, there's a style setting, but all of that content is creating this team members section on the home page. It's also creating, actually the team members are down below. So here's the team members, so it's using that content to create this look. It's also creating this page for each individual person. So if you're creating this site for yourself, you'd actually just log in to the site and go to team members, click on team members, and you'll see the John Mayers and Michael Bishop are already there as demo content. And then you add an image. Here's all the text that is showing up here. And then there's settings down here, like adding their social networks, a subtitle, favorite quote, which are then being displayed. Here's the quote, and the social links, I believe, were used on the home page. Yeah, right here. So I know I'm going through this pretty fast, but it should give you a general view of how a theme works when it's built on Bootstrap Framework. They're all going to be a little bit different, but you really want to make sure that the way the theme looks is ultimately what you want your site to look like. Yeah, you're going to be able to change colors a little bit depending on what options they give you. You can change, obviously, all the content, but it'll be difficult for you to change the layout very much because you would need to edit code, and most people who are just building a WordPress site the first time aren't wanting to edit the code. And you can obviously delete a lot of elements too. So if you were to go back to the, if I was to go back to the home page, because this site is using Visual Composer, it's pretty easy to drag things around, reorder them. I can delete a whole section and it'll be removed from the page. So that's a quick overview of what you might expect when purchasing a theme that uses Bootstrap. You might want to check to see if it includes Visual Composer or some other drag and drop builder like this, because some themes will not have that included. You can always add that as a plugin, but you probably would want one that's already kind of set up to work with Visual Composer like this one is. So the next framework I want to cover is the Genesis framework, which is developed by StudioPress. You can find them at studiopress.com. Looks like the framework is $60 right now, and StudioPress has developed a number of themes. You can actually buy themes right on their site that are developed on the Genesis framework. You can scroll through here real quick and just get an idea of what they look like. Genesis seems to be really popular with developers. So web developers who are building a ton of sites tend to like Genesis and use it because it gives them a lot of flexibility. It's really lean and fast, so the code that's generated is great for search engine optimization and just general speed, a website that runs fast. Because it's been around for a while, there's a huge developer network, so people develop different plugins that work well with Genesis, and there's a lot of themes that have been developed. But it may be a little tricky for a do-it-yourself first-timer with WordPress to figure out. I'm going to show you why. So I'm going to log into a site that is using a Kickstart Pro theme from StudioPress, so it's running Genesis framework. And the site is in development, but here's kind of what it looks like right now. And if I log into the back end, just go to the dashboard to give you a general idea of what that looks like after Genesis is installed. So some of these items on the left are plugins that are installed, but you'll see there's a Genesis menu item here, and that's really the main thing you'll see added. And then depending on the theme, you may see some other elements up here, like I think this theme has added testimonials, which is then put onto the site somewhere depending on the theme design, kind of like the last Bootstrap theme I showed you. But I'll give you a quick look at the Genesis theme settings panel. There's a custom footer. You can change default layout. Just some real general settings. Import and export settings. Simple edits, which again is just some basic settings. And then slider settings. So there's not a whole lot of settings. You can't change like the look of your site like you can with some frameworks and themes by changing these theme settings here. So here's what the home page currently looks like. And if you were to install a theme like this from StudioPress and then go to make some edits, you might go to edit the home page by going to Pages and then go to edit the home page. And then you would see nothing here. It's just blank. There's some layout settings down below. So a lot of people might be confused the first time. Actually, it was the first time I went into a Genesis theme to make some basic changes. So one of the unique features of Genesis is that it uses widgets, which is a core feature of WordPress, to build certain elements of the site, often the home page and maybe other special pages. So to get to widgets, you go to Appearance and then Widgets. So this is how this theme creates the different elements on the home page. So there's slider, call out, news row, home left and right. So you'd really have to play around with these to see what kind of effect it has on the home page. So it's not super intuitive or fast in my opinion in terms of workflow. So you'd kind of have to look at the home page and like if I wanted to change this text here, I'd have to go back to widgets and then kind of find it based on the names of these widgets and just kind of looking around. So here's that text. I could change it here. You'd actually have to put in HTML yourself here if you wanted to change some of the looks of it. Genesis does give you a lot of built-in CSS classes, which again is good for developers, not so great for do-it-yourself WordPress first-timers. One of the main benefits of this is that it's fast in terms of the resulting code and structure of the website. Because widgets is a part of the core WordPress framework, they're using it rather than extending it with more code. So if we go back to Visual Composer, it's a plugin, and all this needs to be added. All this functionality needs to be added in order for a user to use this drag and drop interface. But with Genesis, using widgets to create a home page on this theme, it may not be as user friendly, but it's definitely not adding a lot of code and bloat to the site, which is going to result in faster sites and cleaner code, which is important. But again, it might be difficult for a first timer to figure it out and use it. If I go to one of the other pages on the site, like a more basic page like this one, I could then go click to edit it. Let me show you first, just text and an image at top. Click on edit page, and let's see what this one looks like in terms of editing. So you see the featured image on the right that shows up as that header image, and all the text on this page is actually entered and edited right here in the standard WordPress text editor. So it's not like you're going to be using those widgets I showed you to build your entire site. Most times, I think on this site, the widgets are used to build the home page, and then they're also used to customize a sidebar, which there's no sidebars on this page, but like maybe on the blog, it's used to customize this sidebar. So if you do get a StudioPress Genesis Framework theme, just be prepared to use these widgets to build a lot of your site, and you probably will need to either get some help or get into the code a little bit yourself to customize some things. So getting back into these widgets here, you see here's all the homepage widgets. The footer is customized using widgets, which is pretty common with most themes and frameworks. Some of the elements on the contact page are widgetized. On the pricing page, there's something at the top that's in a widget, and it looks like there's a section before the footer that is also in widgets. So there's definitely a lot more to the Genesis framework, but that just gives you a rough idea of how it works, how you would actually build your site if you decide to choose a theme that uses the Genesis framework. So another framework I want to mention is the Cherry framework, and this is important because it was developed by a team at Template Monster, and Template Monster is a pretty popular website for templates for a lot of different platforms, including WordPress. So if you were to purchase a theme from Template Monster, a WordPress theme, it's a pretty good chance that it's going to utilize the Cherry framework. I actually did a whole video on the Cherry framework, so I'll link to that here just so you can watch it and get an idea of how your website's going to function, how you're going to build it if you choose one of the themes from Template Monster that uses the Cherry framework. So check out that video. But just to summarize, most of the Cherry themes, I used one recently, but most of the ones I've seen do use a plugin for building the pages. So like Visual Composer, there's some other popular plugins that are page builders. So it won't be like Genesis theme where you're using widgets a lot. It does have a lot of widgets that you can use, but they're not exclusively used to build specific pages of your site. You're usually going to use a page builder like Visual Composer. One thing that's really nice about the Cherry framework, and is typical of most frameworks, is that it has an options panel, and you'll even be able to go under Appearance and Customize and change all the look of your site live, like fonts, colors, background images, and it allows you to move quickly and change the look of your site. And I think that's one of the things that's lacking with the Genesis framework that I've seen, is it doesn't seem like there's any real easy way to change things like fonts, colors, in a quick way that allows you to view it live and make those changes fast. You can definitely do it in the code, and I think that's how most people do it when they're using the Genesis framework. Some of the themes built on the Genesis framework may give another options panel that allows you to make those changes. I just haven't seen that yet. So if you're a Genesis developer, go ahead and comment below. Let me know what you think about that. So that's the Cherry framework. Make sure to check out my other video on that. But speaking of theme options panels, I do want to mention one other framework called Codestar. And it's not a full framework, but it's a options framework, they call it. So if you go to their site here for Codestar, it's at codestarframework.com. Their little tagline here is a lightweight, easy to use WordPress options framework. And what this does is it gives you some basic options that allow you to change the basic look of your site, similar to what I mentioned the Cherry framework has. But let me show you that in action. I have seen this on a lot of themes that maybe use Visual Composer as well, but they want to have a options panel. So this is a theme called Route that I got on the Theme Forest. And here's what the Codestar framework looks like. Usually you would just click on you'd see it as the theme name in the WordPress menu, or maybe it says theme options, and then you'll find an options panel like this one, and it'll be customized depending on the theme, but a lot of the types of settings that it has will be similar. So here I can change the top bar, the header, logo. There might be different types of headers for different themes. I can change a bunch of settings for the blog, portfolio, footer. This theme has different skins available. I can change the typography, so change the fonts all over the site. And there's some other settings like extras, which is just a bunch of random stuff that will probably come in really handy, like adding Google Analytics code, a loader on the home page, smooth scroll, different fonts that might be available. You can also add custom CSS in this panel. You can import and export, update, and there's Visual Composer settings that are also available here. I do want to go back to skin real quick because it's important. This is where you change the whole look, the color of the theme just in a few clicks. This one's using build your own skin, which means you would have to go to appearance and customize the WordPress base customizer, and this framework has built in all of those changes right into the customizer. So I can actually click on top bar colors and change all the colors for this top bar, and I can do the same for the header, page headers. It's not just colors either, it's background images, positioning of different elements. Here's footer colors, copyright colors, and then all here, down here is really the core elements of the WordPress customizer. So I think these kind of features are important for like the do-it-yourself WordPress first timer. They just want to make changes to the colors, and this gives them an easy way to do it live on the screen. If you were to make changes here, which I don't want to do because this is a live website, it would change the colors and you could see what it looks like, and then you could save it if you liked the change. So if I were to go into top bar, I could change the background of the top bar. Let's just change the text color to green, and you see right at the top it's changing there live. So that's the Codestar options panel. You'll see that in a lot of themes, but I think it's pretty handy. So it might be something to look for if you're looking at themes and you notice it has Codestar. This is the functionality that it's going to provide to you. So I do want to mention Elegant Themes and the Divi theme because it's what I've used to build probably over 100 sites in the last few years. It's not very developer friendly. A lot of developers use it, but a lot of developers would prefer something like Genesis because they can build things from scratch. But Divi is great for developers, I think, because it's simple to use and it's fast. I like to use it, but it's also very powerful for the do-it-yourselfer who wants to just pick up WordPress and start building a site. So I want to show you it real quick. And I'm going to do another video on like the top 10 things that I like about Divi. So I'll link to that here when it's complete. I haven't created it yet, but I do want to show you just a few basics. You can check out links below in the description for a bunch of sites that I've mentioned, like Theme Forest, and you can get to Elegant Themes from there. They are affiliate links, so I will get commissions if you purchase from there, but it helps me to continue to make videos like this. They're going to help you guys out. So I would appreciate it if you click those links if you're interested in any of these different theme developers or frameworks. One of the reasons I like Divi is that it's super simple. So this is a site that has Divi installed, and you can see it's probably the smallest menu you've seen of all the sites I've looked at. All Divi really adds is this Divi menu here, which will give you a theme options panel, kind of like the Codestar framework. It's going to allow you to make a bunch of basic changes like logo, add some different integration elements like header code, which comes in handy for like Google Analytics. You can add some ads to different places if you want to. There's some SEO basic changes you can use here if you don't want to install a plugin like Yoast, for example. You can do some of the basic changes here, like custom titles for the home page and different pages. And actually I don't use too many of these other items here. I usually just use the general settings. But if you were to go into a page for Divi and create a new page, kind of like Visual Composer, you would click here to use a Divi builder and then add elements. First you would add columns and then add elements from the library that Divi gives you, which isn't a lot. You'll find a lot more elements with Visual Composer and all its add-ons, but Divi keeps it pretty simple. You'll probably find most of what you need here, but definitely not overwhelming, and I've built 100 sites with it, so it's definitely enough to build most small business informational websites. It's a little more intuitive than some frameworks, because if you go click on the home page, you're going to find the home page content there. That's where you're going to edit and build the home page. So here's all the elements in this little grid form, so you can drag things around. There's sections and they all have their own settings, and then the different elements themselves, the modules like text modules and blurbs and images have their own settings. So you can change all that and update it pretty quick. One of the great things about Divi too is the fact that it's really fast in terms of the back-end building process, and they have this new visual builder that a lot of other builders have, like Visual Composer, but Divi one is really fast in my experience, faster than some of the other ones. So you can see you can scroll through here and make changes to elements live on the site and then drag them around. So it's definitely more intuitive, easier to use for a person picking up WordPress for the first time and trying to build a site from scratch. So that's just a real quick overview of Divi. If it looks interesting to you, go ahead and check it out. The link below the video. Definitely check out my other video that I plan on doing too on some of the top features that I love about Divi and why I've used it for the last several years. So that video went a little long, but it's important stuff to cover for those of you who are investigating WordPress and trying to decide which theme to use. Don't just look at the design of a theme, but make sure to see what framework it's using, what builder it's using, how you're going to actually build the site if you're doing it yourself. That's obviously important, and probably more important or as important as how the theme looks when you view the theme demo. I'm sure it brings up a lot of questions, so feel free to comment below, ask questions. If you're a theme developer, let me know what your favorite framework is, what are some that I missed, what are some of the pros and cons of the different frameworks as you see it. Love to see your comments and people read them, so it'll definitely help people get more opinions and not just be listening to mine. If you stayed to the end, thanks. Like the video if you found it useful, and definitely subscribe too. I have a lot more shorter videos that are going to give you some great information about WordPress and all kinds of different other topics that are going to help you have more success with your website. So go ahead and check out the next video, and we'll see you there.